Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm not in my normal setting. Because we've all gone back into lockdown, I thought I'd bring back my back to basic recipes for you. So here are a few really simple and easy recipes to follow using basic equipment and ingredients, and I hope you enjoy them. So for those who don't know what an alfajor biscuit is, I promise you are missing out. It's a really soft corn flour biscuit filled with dulce de leche, which is basically a thick, milky caramel, and it is just delicious. The best thing about these biscuits is that they last such a long time after having made them, so you can make a batch and keep them for about a week in an airtight container. The first thing I'm going to do is mix the flours. So I've got some plain flour here, and I've also got some corn flour. Now we are using powdered sugar, so make sure that you don't mix up the sugar and the corn flour. And I also have some baking powder and baking soda, which is also going to be added. And I'm going to pass the flours through using a cup. For those who know my channel, you know how much I love this trick. It just avoids getting the flour all over the surface and kitchen. And I'm going to set the flours aside. So what I'm going to do now is cream the butter and sugar together. Now, as I mentioned, I am using powdered sugar, and I've made sure my butter is extremely soft because, of course, I'm going to do this by hand. If you have access to a hand or stand mixer, then by all means use that to beat the sugar and butter together. But I left my butter out for quite a long time in a hot place, so it's super soft, in which I can do this by hand. And now I'm going to add the powdered sugar and stir that together and beat it as much as I can with my spatula. I'm then going to change it to a whisk because, like I said, I want this as soft and beaten as possible. And the whisk is also going to help mix in the next ingredient, which is egg yolks. Now, lots of you ask me what to do with leftover egg yolks, because if you make my Swiss meringue buttercream, which uses egg whites, you're usually left with quite a few. So this is yet another recipe that puts the egg yolks to good use. I'm also going to add my lemon zest. Now, this is completely optional, but I quite like the zing of the lemon because the filling is so sweet, it kind of balances it out. But you don't have to put it in if you don't want to. So I'm now going to whisk the yolk and zest into the butter and sugar until it's completely blended in. Now, if your mix starts to curdle at this point, you can get a spoonful of flour and put it into the mixture, and that will stop it splitting. But if you've mixed it well enough, it should be fine. So now I'm going to add the flours in 3 stages. Quite a few recipes recommend adding the flour in stages because it makes the mixing of it that bit easier. If you were to dump all the flour in at once, you'd find it harder to mix all the ingredients evenly, which is why I'm going in stages. So once the first bit of flour is mixed in, I can go in with my second part, mix that through, and then finally add the remaining flour and mix it together until I can't see any powdered flour remaining. Now you can go in with your hands and form a dough. Now this dough is very soft, it's actually really nice to work with, but because we started off with such soft butter, it will come together quite quickly and form a soft dough. I'm just going to roll it around on the table a couple of times to smooth out. And then this goes in the fridge, so as usual I'm going to put it into some cling film, flatten it slightly so it chills evenly, and put it in the fridge for 20 minutes to chill. So the dough's firmed up a bit, and now it's time to roll it out. So I'm going to dust my surface with flour as well as the top of the dough and start rolling it out with my trusty rolling pin replacement, a wine bottle. Of course, if you have a rolling pin, now's the time to use it. And just like with pastry, roll a couple of times forwards and backwards, then rotate the dough to avoid it sticking to the surface. With pastry, you want to roll it as thin as possible, but with these biscuits, you do want a little bit of thickness to it. So roll it out until 0.5 centimetre to 1 centimetre thick. And once you can feel that the dough is rolled out nice and evenly, you can now cut it into circular shapes. Now these circles can be cut into any size, and if you don't have access to cutters, not to worry, you can use the top of a glass, or I've actually found a round lid, and it seems to do the trick. The lid sort of pushes the shape down rather than creating this clean edge. So just to tidy it up, I'm actually going to grab some scissors just to remove the small bit of excess dough around the edge until I get a perfect circle. And repeat until I've used all the dough and cut as many circles as possible. Once I cut out the circles, I'm going to put it onto a floured surface to make sure that they don't stick to it. but we are going to put them onto a baking tray. But if you have one to hand, you can put the biscuits straight onto the baking tray. Now the good thing about this dough being so soft is that once you've cut as many circles as possible, you can scrunch up the dough, re-roll it, and it won't affect it at all. If you've cut them out first like I have, now's the time to put them on the baking tray. So I've lined it with baking parchment and I'm going to place them on like this. Leave some room in between the biscuits, so I'm not going to go on with more than 9 biscuits on this tray. So I like refrigerating biscuits before I cook them because I think it helps maintain their shape. So I'm going to put these in the fridge for about 10 minutes and set my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. And you want to bake the biscuits for about 10 to 12 minutes. You still want a pale colour, but you can tell that they're done when the edges are starting to turn a very slight golden brown and the centre feels set. Once they're baked, you can see that they're still really pale, but I can feel that the middle has set. You don't want to touch them until they're completely cold though, especially these biscuits because they're very fragile due to the corn flour. While they're cooling down, you can prepare the filling. Now if you wanted to make your own dulce de leche, then by all means go ahead, but it's very common to find it ready-made in jars, and I believe if you make it yourself it just doesn't taste the same. So I'm going to fill up a piping bag by putting a piping bag into a glass. This just makes it easier to fill, and fill about halfway with a dulce de leche. I truly have to hold back at this part because if I start licking it from the spoon, I really won't stop. It's one of my weaknesses. Once the biscuits are cooled, you can take them off the tray and place them either onto a board or a cooling rack, ready to fill. Like with macarons or any sandwich biscuits, I like pairing them up into the similar sizes. So they are all pretty similar, but some came out slightly smaller than others, so I'll make sure they pair up. So I'm going to flip one half upside down because it just makes it easier to fill, and cut the top of my piping bag. Now the secret to a good alfajor is to not be stingy with the filling. So you can see how much I'm piping in the middle, and I even think I could have piped a little bit more. But you really don't want to hold back with this. Once you've piped the filling, you can take the other half of the biscuit and carefully squash the biscuits together, which is going to spread out the dulce de leche in the middle until it reaches the edges. Now, like I said before, these are very fragile biscuits, so try and keep the pressure of your hands even rather than centered. I actually had a couple of breakages, so I tried to do this as carefully as possible. Now traditionally, these alfajores are actually dipped in shredded coconut. So I'm going to squeeze them a little bit more just so the dulce de leche really reaches the edges of the biscuit because I want the coconut to stick to it. So here I've got some desiccated coconut, and really simply I'm going to dip the sides of the biscuit into the coconut and allow it to stick to the filling. So of course this bit's completely optional, but it is traditional and just gives another dimension to the biscuit too. And there you go, that is how you make alfajores. Try them out, they'd also work really well as mini biscuits, perfect with a cup of coffee. And like I said, you can make a load and keep them airtight for the week. Hope you enjoyed this video, I'm looking forward to seeing your creations. And don't forget to tag me at George's Cake so I can see them. And see you soon for more back to basic tutorials.